What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the December 4th, right?
Please.
Oh my god. The December 4th edition. Is it the 4th? No.
It's the 5th? Oh, it's the 5th now, because it's after midnight.
Oh,
so
that's
4th.
why I'm confused. So this is the December 4th edition of
It's the
Smark,
4th
guys.
/ 5th.
But we're actually filming it at midnight. We were so busy today, so this will be obviously going up on the 5th, which is Sunday.
I didn't make a stupid face when you opened this time.
You didn't?
No, I didn't do
I
it.
purposely didn't.
I just-
The last. If anyone who didn't see it, the last episode of Smart Guys, go check it out. When it opens,
Part 1.
He's going duh to the camera for some
I was
reason.
having fun.
So anyway, we're gonna go through a special 3-hour Raw that was actually the King of the Ring special this past Monday. Well, then we'll talk about SmackDown. Then we'll move on to Impact. We're gonna move a little bit quicker simply because it's a little late. We want to get this done, and not much really happened
I
this
gotta go
week.
to bed, man.
Yeah, I'm tired.
That's what bedtime.
I'm starving.
I go to sleep
So,
at 8 p.m.
so anyway, two major plots going on in this past Raw this week. The first was the King of the Ring tournament, for which there had been previous qualifying matches over the past week on both SmackDown and Raw, and then also the fact that The Miz is now the new WWE champion due to his cashing the Money in the Bank last week and defeating Randy Orton. So, going along with the first vein, we'll talk a little bit about the King of the Ring and what happened there. So the first match was Alberto Del Rio against Daniel Bryan, and this was, at least for me, I thought it was going to be pretty interesting because it was a submission versus a submission specialist.
It's one of the matches that we talked about last week that we wanted to see.
That we wanted to
It was
see.
a good match.
It was a good match. What ended up happening, though, was that Bryan does like a spot where he jumps out of the ring onto Del Rio and somehow injures his shoulder. He's running into the protective, guardrail there, and therefore he kind of injures himself. Of course, now Del Rio's finisher is to submit that arm, puts him in the arm submission, and immediately wins the match.
Right.
So kind of a lame ending, but it was a pretty good back and forth match. Up next was Cody Rhodes versus John Morrison. Back and forth, but basically it was interesting. I thought the end was good because if you remember, both of them actually now have a similar finisher, but they're called different things. For Morrison, they call it the flash kick, I think, but for Rhodes, they call it the beautiful disaster. It's a kick bouncing off of the ropes, basically almost like an enziguri off the ropes into your head. And Rhodes goes for it and then says, "Oh shit," because when he goes to hit it, he looks, and Morrison's now doing it to him.
Yeah, it was cool.
At the same time. It was kind of a whoa, what the fuck moment, but it was pretty cool. So Morrison picks up the victory there. Then there was Drew McIntyre versus Zeke, and it was funny because you mentioned this earlier today that in every single King of the Ring tournament,
there
seems to be a bullshit finish.
Yeah, for like 20 years, like the last 20-something years.
Right.
It's like there's always a double DQ or a double count
Or
something like that.
And in this case, Zeke and Matt and Drew are fighting outside of the ring, and they lose track of the count, and it's a double 10 count. They both get eliminated from the tournament.
I think the WWF title tournament, like when Randy Savage won back in in the 80s, there was a double DQ.
I'm sure, yeah.
I don't know what.
I always remember.
I think they just don't want to they just feel like big time constraints. They're like, there's always got to be one.
Maybe it's just tradition.
Fucking weird.
Someone has to be screwed.
Yeah, at this point, it's tradition. They just have to keep doing it.
Right. So they're both out of the tournament. So whoever wins the next matchup supposedly is going to get a bye to the finals, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So the next matchup, incidentally, was Kofi Kingston against Sheamus. Another pretty good back and forth match. It was actually funny. They only showed it for like half a second, but a fan had a Sheamus sign. It was Sheamus mayonnaise, and it's Sheamus like this, his actual official WWE pose like this, with 3 jars of like Hellmann's in front of him. It was like hilarious. And then all of a sudden the guy was saying, "No, cut away, cut away, cut away!" And they cut away from the side.
Yeah, right.
So
sounds delicious.
So anyway. Not too bad. Kofi actually was coming off of the turnbuckle like with a flying move, one of his high flying moves, caught a brogue kick on the chin, ended up losing. So Sheamus now actually starting to look a little bit stronger after all these losses he's been having to Santino, then to
He's getting
Morrison.
ready for something.
So
perhaps the turn Triple H, maybe.
Maybe could be
like that.
the inevitable return.
Who knows?
Then the next match in the tournament was Del Rio versus Morrison. This match was actually interesting. It went back and forth a little bit. And actually, during this match, Michael Cole and CM Punk started bringing up previous King of the Ring winners.
Right.
Which was funny because they started bringing up people who you wouldn't expect. Like, they mentioned Brock Lesnar. They mentioned Mabel, who's been gone now for a couple of years. His last run in the WWE. And it was interesting that they started mentioning
Yeah, it was also
guys.
interesting they kept out some people, like Owen Hart. Obviously, Kurt Angle, because he's in TNA.
Right.
What was the other one? Ken Shamrock wasn't there.
Wasn't there? They didn't mention him.
Billy Gunn they left off too.
Yep.
Probably just because he sucks. They're like,
no one cared.
They're like, that never happened.
The guy did moves with his ass.
They couldn't mention him because he's not in any company, but they're just like...
He's not in any company.
They're probably just
right?
embarrassed that he won. They're like, no. That never existed.
I can't believe we wasted that year.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's actually a pretty decent match, but what ends up happening is, as revenge for what happened last week on SmackDown, now if you didn't catch our Smart guys from last week, Smack guys.
It's a good name too.
Basically, Alberto Del Rio cost Rey Mysterio his qualifying spot in the King of the Ring tournament by interfering in his match. So during the Del Rio Morrison match, Rey Mysterio gets inside of Del Rio's Rolls Royce and starts honking the horn, which was hilarious because you could tell he actually wasn't honking the horn.
Oh yeah.
It was being played over the PA system. But anyway,
there's no way you could hear it. So.
Exactly. So, he distracts Del Rio, and then Del Rio gets flash kicked in the face, and Morrison picks up the victory, which leads to the tournament finals, John Morrison versus Sheamus, which is kind of interesting because you realize this is a rematch of the match that just happened on the past pay-per-view.
With Morrison won.
Which Morrison won. So Morrison looks very good, very strong going into this match. And it is a pretty good match, but there's actually a pretty interesting spot where there's a botched knees. Like he was going for Starship Pain, and I guess Sheamus was supposed to put his knees up, but he doesn't get them up in time, or it doesn't hit properly.
Yeah.
So he ends up actually getting hurt.
It looked
really
pretty brutal when he hit him in the stomach.
It did. It looked bad. I was like, oh Jesus.
Ow.
But anyway, so then he gets up. He does a brogue kick. Then he does his high cross finisher because he's kind of following along this plot line that he's so pissed off that he's been losing. He has multiple finishers now. So Sheamus is now officially your King of the Ring, and he comes out. They have this. First of all, Miss USA was there, and it was funny because I wrote a note here.
Oh, she did the introductions too, which was horrible.
She did do the introductions, and it was horrible. And I also wrote, "Gee, Miss USA is pretty ugly this year." But anyway,
I would say that.
they gave him, his robe and his scepter with a gigantic golden ball on the top of it. I don't know what that.
He had some weird rant about the kings of Ireland or something.
Yes. The kings of yore have foretold of my bloody victory, or some bullshit. I don't know what he was saying.
I wonder if they picked the winner just by who would make the better king,
right.
Like King Morrison would be worse than King Sheamus. Kind of makes more sense because he's got that
yeah,
the European thing.
Right. Well, it's similar. It's funny that you said Triple H because he really is almost the same body type, the same.
Well,
thing as Triple H, and he's won it before.
It seems like they're getting Sheamus ready for something. What that is, we don't know.
Right, Triple H is inevitable.
Perhaps
return.
because they fought last year WrestleMania.
Right.
So
maybe
are they going to lead towards that again?
The King of Kings versus the new King of the Ring. That would be
I can see him come out on the King, and then he's like, "Oh, well, I'm the King of Kings," and he comes out and shit.
Yeah. Okay.
I can see that happening.
So the other plot line that we want to mention, of course, there was a whole bunch of other crap that happened, but it wasn't very interesting. The other plot line going on is The Miz. Exactly, The Miz. He comes in. He's celebrating now that he's the new champion. In the ring, and he's basically saying, he gives a pretty good promo, I have to admit. His promo is basically, listen, there were a lot of people in this company when I first started that made fun of me. They said that I would never amount to anything because I was on a reality show, and here I am, years later, and I proved them wrong, and I'm the champion. I thought that it was almost a shoot, in my opinion. He actually started naming names. He named Triple H and JBL in particular.
Yeah.
So, right, and JBL hasn't been in the company in a couple of years, so that's interesting that he would just pull him out of a hat like that. So
JBL's notorious for giving people crap.
Right.
Especially
new people who he doesn't like. Yeah. So anyway, during this promo, I guess I think Miz started insulting the legends like he usually does.
Insulting the guys who never had the belt.
The guys that never had Piper, all the Jimmy Snuka. He's mentioning all these particular people. And then actually Jerry Lawler, of all people, stands up and interrupts the Miz and says, well, I'm actually one of those people too. And although, yes, you absolutely have the right to celebrate that you won the title.
Because I never got a shot.
You realize you only beat Orton because he got attacked by 7 people before you. Now, what about people like me who never got a shot? How could you disrespect us and all this? And basically he says, gee, well, if you were such a man, you would defend your title tonight, and hell, you would defend it against me. And then the Raw GM comes on, the anonymous Raw GM talking laptop.
He's awesome.
And says, you know what, that sounds good. We're going to have that as a match, but by the way, it's going to be a tables, ladders, and chairs match, which obviously they're pushing towards their tables, ladders, and chairs pay-per-view in 2 weeks. So the whole night it was kind of leading up to this. You saw clips of Jerry Lawler in the back preparing, and
classic clips of his classic stuff.
His classic matches. Arn Anderson going back there to talk to him, give him a pep talk during the night and stuff like that.
It was also his birthday.
Oh, I forgot about that. It was his birthday.
We got a birthday present.
This is his birthday present. He
King of the
finally gets
Ring
a title
night.
match. So it was pretty cool. It was the main event, and as John had told me earlier today, yeah, it was a really good match. It made. Well, go ahead. Tell him what you think about how it made Lawler look, at least.
It was an excellent match. It was like an old school match. The match was done in a way that if Jerry Lawler had won the belt, it would have been a believable thing.
Right.
Because of the way it was booked and the way it was constructed, was really good. There's also some great spots in there.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Riley took an awesome spot into a table where he just kind of fell backward into it.
Right.
Miz went through a table. Some really cool stuff going on there.
And in fact, that spot leading into the fact that Jerry Lawler was on the ladder by himself alone, ready to grab the title, and the crowd was like...
The best part of that, the crowd was going nuts.
Yeah, they were like, they can't believe it. There's no way he can lose this match now because the two people are out. You know,
it had that old buzz of excitement going through the crowd.
And then, of course, they decided to shit upon the match.
Yeah.
So... what ends up happening is Michael Cole, who, if you've been following WWE for like the past 6 to 8 months since the first NXT started, has basically been like a cheerleader for Miz. He loves The Miz, everything about The Miz. He's his favorite wrestler. And so when Jerry Lawler's climbing up this ladder, Michael Cole gets up from the announce table, enters the ring, and grabs Jerry Lawler's foot and holds him back from getting the title.
When CM Punk intervened in this.
Well, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
So... anyway, obviously Lawler's like, what the fuck? He gets off the ladder and he ends up decking Cole. He's like, I don't know what else to do. He's being an asshole. But then because of that, Miz is able to climb into the ring. Actually, they're fighting for the belt.
I give them credit because they could have just had something to do where the Miz, like behind his back, was
just grabbed it.
They actually added some even more intrigue where they both were on the ladder fighting. So that's kind of
a lot of suspense. It was very suspenseful.
It was very suspenseful.
And they go back and forth fighting over the title, but finally, the Miz actually grabs the title and bounces it off of Jerry Lawler's head.
Right.
He falls off the ladder, and the Miz retains his title. So it remains to be seen, what's going to happen next week on Raw. What is going to be? What was Michael Cole first of all have to say for himself for interfering in a match like that?
Is Lawler going to do something to him?
Is Lawler going to do something? Or is Lawler going to continue? How can you be a broadcast colleague with someone who cost you your only title shot?
Right.
So
they have CM Punk now. Where are they going with that?
Maybe that's why they brought out Punk, because they wanted him to replace Lawler for a certain period of time. So we'll see what happens.
At the end of the day, it was a good show, and they've had a string of good Raws.
Right.
So that's the more positive thing.
And just for everyone's John Cena update, because as you know, the saga of Cena will continue. First of all, John Cena still has not debuted as his supposed Juan Cena rumored character. If anyone who doesn't know, off of TV on weekend shows and things like that, John Cena's been showing up in a freaking luchador mask, but he's wearing his regular ring gear. Like, you could know it's John Cena, but they announced him as Juan Cena, which is really stupid. It's a dumb gimmick. It's very similar to the Mr. America gimmick they did with Hulk Hogan a couple years back.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes was like the Midnight Rider back in the 80s and shit.
Right. So I guess what they were trying to do is say, yeah, Cena's going to stay around, and they're trying to find a reason why. Right. And everyone thought that this week was going to be the debut, but no, actually it was the regular John Cena. He basically interfered. There was going to be a match between McGillicuddy and R-Truth, but he jumps McGillicuddy in the back. Then during the tag team match, there was actually a tag team match between I always forget their names. Slater and Gabriel. Slater and Gabriel defending their they weren't defending their tag titles. It was just a tag match against Yoshitatsu and Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Well, John Cena just shows up in the arena with tickets in his hand. Why he needs 2 tickets to sit there, I have no idea. But he has 2 tickets
big guy.
in his hand.
Two seats.
He's like, look, I'm a paying customer. I can just sit in the arena. Obviously, he interferes in that match and costs them.
CM Punk had some good lines about this. He was like,
how dare they let him in? Security, get him out, and all this shit. Arrest that man, because of crazy shit like
we're
that.
The cops.
We're the cops, exactly.
I just want to add, it shows what you could do with good booking. Like, you took a 61-year-old guy who's a commentator, put him in the ring in a main event, and just because it was booked well, it came off so well, so good.
It looked great.
And intrigue and everything. So it's it shows what you can do just with good booking, with pretty much anyone,
Right.
As long as it's done well, done correctly.
Right. So, anyway, that's basically the basic vein now with the John Cena story. He's going to continue to fuck with Nexus week after week until basically Nexus chooses to reinstate him so that they can get their revenge.
That's one thing I want to add. All of a sudden,
which is weird.
All of a sudden, Barrett, he's like, I have the ability to bring you
reinstate
back. It's really? When did that?
Yeah, when did you get that ability? Because no one told us about it.
It's Vince McMahon can, but this dude can. Is it
really weird?
They just kind of made that up.
They did make it up.
We'll see what happens with that.
So that's pretty much it for Raw. No, there were other little minor things that happened, but nothing even worth mentioning. So then on SmackDown this week, a couple things happened. Obviously, the flow, they tried to actually follow up with the Michael Cole angle because Michael Cole is now an announcer on SmackDown, and he says, "I'm just not going to talk about it tonight. We'll address it on Monday, and I refuse to talk about it." And that was it. That was all they addressed all night about that Michael Cole. But anyway, the main vein, of course, still going on SmackDown is that Edge has still after like 4 weeks now, still has kidnapped Paul Bearer. He's still torturing him. He's still every week he's bringing him to the arena, wheeling him around the arena, and Kane chases them like a cartoon for the whole show. Never actually gets them, and at the end of the show, Edge speeds away. Now last week, the reason that Edge supposed to get it is he wanted a #1 contenders match. This week, there's the main event is Edge against Kane, and the winner gets to pick a stipulation for their match at TLC. It's their title match. And so supposedly that's why Edge is doing it tonight. He wants to like mindfuck Kane, make him lose the match mentally, and therefore he'll be able to pick the stipulation.
Right.
So this is going on all night, and I could sit here and talk about all the crazy hijinks, like he pushed him down a flight of stairs, but it really wasn't Paul Bearer. It's really not worth mentioning. It's really not. It's just really silly. I mean, it was okay the first week. You're like, okay, this is kind of... Now it's like a month in. You're like, this is... First of all, yeah, I'm really sure you could kidnap a human being for a month and no one will come after you.
You kidnapped him in Europe. And the brought to...
Yeah, and flew him to the United States. It's just like, give me a break. It's just... I can suspend my disbelief for some...
Yeah, why didn't they just do it for like a week?
Yeah, exactly. 1 week would have been perfect, you know.
That's insane.
So anyway, this is going on all night and it leads to the main event, but we'll get to that. A couple matches in between there. First of all, you actually find out that Caitlyn has won NXT, and anyone who's been following along, she's the person who's been involved with the Vicky Guerrero and the Dolph Ziggler love angle. Yeah. So now it looks like they might be continuing that in future weeks. I'm so thrilled to see that. So there's the first actual match of the night is Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre versus MVP and Caval. This is a noteworthy match because this is actually MVP's last match in the WWE. If anyone who hasn't heard, MVP actually asked for his release this week, probably after the results of the shitty match, and saying they're not doing anything with me, and I'm tired of just getting squashed.
Is one of those guys that just kind of always stayed in that mid-card range?
Well, actually, I have a comment about that, Pulse.
What do you got?
If you remember correctly, and I hate to mention this and bring up Bad Blood, but he had an amazing program with Chris Benoit right before that whole Benoit thing went down. And it was all for the U.S. title. They went back and forth. They actually traded the title. They traded the title a couple of times. Yeah, and then they had a best-of-7 series. And that really built up MVP to look like a main event contender. But it seemed like ever since whatever happened with Benoit, he just fizzled out and they didn't want to do anything with him. And I don't know if it was the stink of what had happened or I don't know.
See how they could... Well, I don't. It possibly could have, but I would hope not that it would affect him. He had nothing to, obviously.
And I don't know if it really. I really hope that's not the truth. But I just remember him being pushed, and then all that shit with Benoit happened, and then like where did he go? And then all of a sudden he was gone for a while. Then he came back in a new outfit, and next thing you know, now he's a face, but now he sucks and he can't win a match.
I just think for whatever reason they just get sour on guys, and they don't think that they're it. That's it. And like once. Whoever it is decides it, like you're never gonna get through that ceiling. It's like Christian's another guy, and it's like you don't really know what it is. It's like whoever is back there.
Right.
It's in their head, and it's what they decided. It's like certain guys can never really reach that point.
Well, unfortunately, MVP. In my opinion, he was a good worker. I thought he was pretty good in the ring, and I hope he, in the future, whatever he chooses to do,
he's probably going to go
successful.
To Japanese federations or something. So.
Well. Wish him the best. Anyway, in this match, it's actually a pretty decent match. Most of the match, MVP gets worked. So then he gets the hot tag to Caval. Caval comes in, and let me say, he looked great. They let him do a couple interesting spots. He was doing all his signature moves, backflips and everything. Looked great.
Stiff kicks.
And then, of course, he's got I believe it was Ziggler in the Dragon Sleeper. Vicky Guerrero interferes. So now, oh no, there's a distraction. Ziggler hits the zigzag 1, 2, 3. They lose yet again. Caval has won one match since he came to the WWE and he was out of NXT. One match! They won't give him another win. It's just retarded. But anyway, so now they both look bad, and then MVP probably said this match sucks dick.
So I'm going to do this for like 10 years. Fuck this.
Exactly. There was also Kofi Kingston versus Jack Swagger for the #1 contender spot for the Intercontinental title, which I don't understand because I thought that Swagger was trying to gun for the world title, but now all of a sudden all he cares about is the Intercontinental
Doesn't care,
title.
man. You already had that.
So
He wants the
anyway,
other title.
this match was probably one of the longest matches on WWE TV this year. The match went on for something like 20 minutes.
5 commercial breaks.
No, there was only like 1 commercial break. It was insanely long, and the announcers, the whole gist of what they were saying was, wow, these two guys are really evenly matched. So I think they were trying to push it as like, this is going to be a really long and involved match. Lots of near falls, lots of reversals. You know, Swagger goes for the ankle lock several times, gets reversed. Kofi goes for the Trouble in Paradise 1 or 2 times, keeps missing it. So really an entertaining match, but what ends up happening, it actually is a really unique ending where Kofi gets thrown out of the ring and gets it really quick, and Jack Swagger tries to follow him, and Kofi hits him with the Trouble in Paradise through the ropes.
Wow.
So he's getting out, he's like, oh shit, boom, right in the head, and he, tumbles into the ring, and then he jumps in the ring and pins him. So it was like an out-of-the-ring finisher that turned into an in-ring pin. It was pretty unique. So Kofi gets the #1 contender spot, which was, I think it made both competitors look good. I just think that that's really messed up what they're doing as Swagger, where they tried to push him as a main eventer, as the world champ. They make him drop the title, and now he's running around with a fucking stuffed eagle.
Yeah, I mean,
and jabbing left and right.
He was like the Miz of last year, so hopefully they learn and
Right.
they'll do what they did to him to the Miz.
Right. So we'll see what happens. There was a Rosa Mendez versus Layla match, which I'm not even going to mention because it was horrendous, and it had Hornswoggle, and it had Beth Phoenix, and I don't care. And then the main event match, which was Kane versus Edge. Typical Kane-Edge match. It almost kind of looks similar to the pay-per-view match they just had. What ends up happening is Kane gets distracted because on the Titantron it shows Paul Bearer in the back, and he's going, Kane, save me, save me. And he starts walking to the back, but then the ref's counting him out and says, oh, like he has to make a crucial decision what to do.
Yeah.
He says, all right, fuck it. He turns around, he goes back to the ring. As soon as he hits the ring, spear, 1, 2, 3. So now Edge gets to choose the stipulation for the match. Now keep in mind,
What's going on with this?
the name of this pay-per-view is TLC.
Yeah.
Okay? Edge says, well, I get to pick the stipulation. I'm going to pick my favorite kind of match, my innovative match, tables, ladders, and chairs. And the crowd goes, isn't that the name of the pay-per-view? Didn't we kind of know that already? So that was kind of really anticlimactic as an ending.
You were talking about that before where they named the pay-per-views after matches now?
Yeah.
Like fucking Hell in the Cell.
Hell in the Cell, TLC.
What was the other one that just happened?
Texas Bull Rope. No, that doesn't happen. Well, there was another one that just happened, wasn't it?
Elimination? No, that's not what it is.
Yeah, Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank, yeah.
You know, it's like how many? When was the Bra and Panties pay-per-view?
Yeah,
I'm tuning into that
Ron
one.
Petty's pay-per-view. That'd be awesome.
The Pit Mud Wrestling pay-per-view.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So anyway,
Bull Rope pay-per-view.
Texas Bull Rope pay-per-view. Everyone has a bull rope match.
Tuxedo pay-per-view. Tuxedo match.
So no. The Shave Your Head pay-per-view. Half the cast of WWE's bald by the next week.
That'd be sweet.
That would be great. But anyway, so that's it for SmackDown. What ends up happening is the exact same thing that's happened at the end of the past 3 SmackDowns. Kane chases into the back trying to find Paul Bearer, finally sees him, and then somehow Edge speeds away and gets away with Paul Bearer.
It's so ridiculous that it's almost like Paul Bearer, like, for this to make sense, Paul Bearer would have to be in cahoots with Edge.
Right, that's true.
That'd be the only way it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Right,
It's just so insane.
It's so stupid at this point. So I don't know if they're going to... There's one more week before the pay-per-view, so maybe it'll finally end before the pay-per-view. But, I mean, 2 weeks in a row now, Edge did it to get the #1 contender spot. Then Edge did it to get the stipulation. What's he going to get next week? Is he going to ask for $5,000 from Kane? For like, can you give me a down payment on a car?
God.
So I don't know. But that's it for SmackDown. So we're going to come back as we are approaching the end of our first part here, and we're going to talk about Impact this week, which shouldn't take too long, but just a standard episode of Impact.
4 hours.
So we'll be right back with...
Better roll into it.
5
hours.
5 hours.
Roll into the deep.
5 hours of Immortal. That's all we're going to talk about. All right, so we'll be right back with part 2 of Smark Guys.